everybody, and welcome to day 4. I am here with you guys live, and we are recording, just FYI, and it is streaming in the Facebook group as of right now, and so it will live there for those of people who are not able to be with us live. I know many people have work obligations and kids and all the things, so if you miss anything or you want to go back, you can certainly find this recording in the 5-Day Challenge Facebook group where it will stay. I did get a message from a few people, and I've been working all morning, so I haven't had a chance to get onto my email system, but that the video for the email that went out today, the link was broken. So I'm not really sure what's going on with those links on Vimeo. Apparently something is up. I thought I checked them all yesterday when I redid the video from yesterday, so I will go back and redo that. I've actually uploaded them all onto YouTube now, so they should work. I don't know, I checked the links, but whatever. So anyway, I will resend them. I will resend the video for today's content for day 4 and make sure that tomorrow, I'll check again to make sure that tomorrow's video link is correct. If you have any questions at all about anything, make sure you just respond to that email. Leave it in the Facebook group and I will get to it as quickly as I can. It looks like a lot of people from the group dropped their work in the group today because they cannot be on live for whatever reason, or they just wanted to do it that way. And I love that. I love that you guys are really taking advantage of the opportunity to fully be embraced in this experience. I'm super proud of all of you, everybody who's been participating, everybody who's been here with me live and sharing their thoughts and feelings along this challenge. You guys are doing excellent work. I'm so proud of you. And we're almost to the home stretch. Okay, so today is day 4. We are digging into what your actual negative thoughts are and kind of taking that inventory of them, whether they're rational or irrational. So this is a little bit of a process. Most people in recovery, at least if you've been around or used at all a recovery program like a 12-step program, you're probably familiar with the term inventory because it's used pretty frequently, specifically around step 10 and then also around other things too throughout the step work. So that's a common term that's typically used in the recovery programs. I use it quite frequently because it applies and I think it's valuable. And in this particular instance, taking a thought inventory, I think is extremely not only appropriate, but also very important for the work that we do to build emotional sobriety and become a lot more confident and comfortable in our own skin as sober women, right? And this is beyond recovery stuff. This isn't like necessarily early recovery stuff. This is that stuff that's still lingering, that still needs to be honed in on even after we've been sober for a little bit of time. All right, so all that to say, welcome Polly and Monique. I see you guys are online already, and if anybody else jumps in, we will welcome them as well. And I'm going to throw it over to you guys. I'm here for you guys to listen and offer guidance and support throughout the work that you've done on today's topic for the challenge. So if anybody wants to share, or I'm turning it over to you guys.
So I played a little bit of catch up, Shelby, because I think I told you yesterday I had a work commitment. So I went in today and looked at day 3 and then day 4. And it was kind of ironic because my dog has her squeaky toy out. My negative thought kind of rolled into, I'm in California. We had horrendous weather on Tuesday to the point where I didn't sleep Tuesday night. I mean, I think I got 2 hours of sleep because I was like, is this house going to blow away? I mean, it was just really bad. And I'm from the Midwest originally. So, but I was like, I was really scared. Well, so then woke up yesterday and I'm a recruiter. And we had our first virtual career fair yesterday for one of our universities. And so there's a lot of technology that goes on with that, doing everything virtually. So it just, as soon as I, got up, it was just like the spin was happening with the negative thoughts, more of like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? Because it's me and one other person running this fair. So got online. So that was the first thing. It was like, okay, I have power. I have online. And then I just immediately kind of went through some steps in my head where I just said, I pinged my colleague, she's out east. I said, hey, FYI, there's no power around here. And I said, so I might end up losing power today. And I have like a 30 students back to back scheduled, and they're 10 minutes at a time. So they're just boom, boom, boom. And we're using new technology we've never used before. So there was a lot of unknowns. So what I just did was I went, here's what I'm doing. Here's what may happen. And then every time a student would pop on my screen, I would be like, before we get too far, I just need to let you know where I am, what's happening. There's been some connectivity issues. If I lose you, I'll try to get back in. But I just said, rest assured, we have your information if for some reason we get disconnected and we don't come back in. So I just kind of said, so I already gave them the solution on what was going to happen, because this was truly one of those things that was not in my control. So I had the rational thought. I mean, I just was like, this is what I can and can't do. And I just processed it through that way and just kind of took it a step at a time. And at the end of it, it actually ended up being it was fine, but there were some issues throughout the day. But again, I let them know ahead of time, I have your information, so we're not going to lose you, and then, I made it through the day and then took a nap. It was much needed. And even my coworker said, she goes, this is exhausting. Those types of things are always really hard, because it's like when you're doing something for the first time that's brand new, and you're depending on technology, which we all have to now. You just do the best you can. And as long as you've done what you can, then I just have to leave it. So that was kind of a scenario of what happened to me yesterday when I went in to do the challenge today. I was like, well, this is kind of what I went through. And, my answer was, it's a rational thought, because things did and could have gone wrong. And then I just worked through them.
I love this story. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm sorry you went through that, but it sounds like you really did an amazing job of rising to the occasion. I love how you really took control of the situation by saying to everybody, this is the situation we're in. The reality is, we could lose power at any time. This is completely out of my control. But you informed them so they could be prepared, so that they felt more in control, because when that thing starts swirling on their computer and they're like, where'd she go? They're not sitting here going like, oh, well, that's ridiculous, she's gone. So like you gave them power too in doing that, which really helps a lot when we're engaging with other people. So I like how you took control of that situation, and then you sort of took your emotions out of it. You removed yourself as much as you could from that, because it isn't in your control. So it's okay for us to be frustrated by something. Like, it's okay for us to be angry even about a situation. Like, I personally feel very angry at this moment, and this morning I spent a lot of time on this because our schools aren't in Maryland. It's like, I'm so pissed off. But like, I've done all the things that I can do. I've written the letters, I've sent the emails, we've talked at the Board of Ed meetings, we've done the things, and it's really not anything we can control. But sometimes I still do get really angry about it, and so I just recognize it. I even typed out a little message to myself and said, I'm just really angry about this right now, and I just can't stand my state. And then I had to just let it go and kind of let it go out to the universe, So it's okay for us to have those feelings, but what wouldn't have been okay, I don't want to put words into your head or let you go down the path, but what wouldn't have been okay in that situation is if you were to say I suck at this because I can't even control this situation, or I'm not good enough to be here because, what if this happens? That's the kind of stuff that would have taken you down a path that would have been completely dysfunctional and very irrational, because you would have taken a situation that was completely out of your control and put in inserted your own negative beliefs about yourself, turned it on yourself, when you had no business doing that, because it didn't really even belong to you. It was a natural, state of nature. So,
yeah, and I find humor, you kind of have to. I mean, at one point I was laughing because at one point in time I couldn't use my laptop for this particular session, which I wanted to, but I couldn't get in through my laptop. So I was literally had an iPad in my hand and I was trying to hold it up and look at me, and I looked like crap because I woke up and there was other stuff happening. So I'm like, well, whatever, And then I had my phone, and I was like, and then I was trying to take notes, and I just laughed because it's like, you know what? these students, in my head, I had to remind myself, they are so happy for the opportunity to be talking to someone.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah.
so happy that they're connecting with someone. They don't care what you look like. They don't, and that's, I just said, I mean, because it did look like I just rolled out of bed and I had something else come up right before I got ready.
Mm-hmm.
My schedule was showing that I wasn't going to have my first call until like 9:30. So I'm a big preparer, and I hopped into the system and I'm like, oh, I got people coming on as early as 8. And so I lost a chunk of time, and I'm like, okay, just have to roll with it. And then someone rang my doorbell and needed to have a conversation with me. And I was like, I'm a recruiter. I got someone coming on my phone here in like, 2 minutes, So it just, at the end of the day, I'm like, I talked to them. I talked to every single one that signed up. It wasn't perfect, but they didn't know that.
Yeah. I love that. And like, it wasn't perfect, but you were, like you showed up as
Right.
you go and you gave them your very best and your full attention and your authority. And that's what your job was. So I love that you did that. Thank you for sharing it. It sounds like you're sort of really going into today with a great way of managing yourself and your thoughts. So I love it. Just in full disclosure too, I have another meeting at 1:00. So I am going to have to make sure that I'm signed off by then
Yep.
to receive that person. So, and in an effort to make sure everybody gets a chance to talk who wants to talk, I want to make sure we are mindful of time. And then if we have extra time, we'll just circle back. Okay. All right. Who else wants to share about day 4, your thought inventory? Anybody? This is your time. Laurie, I have to say, I love your ceiling. Whatever's going on.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Is that your home or is it your office?
Yeah, that's my bedroom. Yeah.
Oh, it's really wild.
So thanks. Yeah, it's like a faux tin ceiling. But
Oh,
thank
it's really
you.
cool. I love it.
Thanks.
Sorry, it was distracting me because it's so cool.
No, that's fine. I can share while I'm off mute now.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote about today, I'm going through a big change at work. I had an employee resign and who reports to me, and I've been through this before. I know, so it's not, I have fear of the future about it, but it's not fully unknown because other than I have more experience than the last time that this happened. I would say that I pretty much know what's going to be on my plate here in 2 weeks. So anyway, but I did try to break down all the negative thoughts I've had with that because I feel like kind of overwhelmed and that this is coming. Partly the thoughts are rational because I know it's work I don't do today. I'm going to have to cover it until we can hire somebody. And then it's somewhat irrational because I've found people in the past, I've been able to train them. It takes some time, but like once they get up there, it ends up being like pretty rewarding, truly. And I've covered the job before, even as recently as this summer. So I think like for me, like just trying to, what can I do to, on both paths actually, because I have some of rational and irrational thoughts. I wrote down that I can, do as much as I can to learn from this person that's leaving. So I'm ready and in the 2 weeks and really pay attention. And then also I can be thinking of people maybe internally even that could step into the job and help me out. But yeah, it's been a lot going on there, I think.
Sounds like it. That sounds like a lot. I love the way you're sort of able to see the rational versus irrational pieces to this, and also sort of identify some of your strengths, which is what we're gonna one of the focuses of our day tomorrow, because that's really important. One of the ways to get out of some of this negative thinking is to really do a quick scan or I guess it's an inventory or just looking through our file cabinet of experiences. Like, when have I done this before? When has this situation come up before and I've been faced with this same feeling or the same thing or the same situation, and I was able to get through it. That's why it's important for us to kind of log that stuff so that we can recall it and be like, when was the time when I was faced with a really big challenge and I rose to the occasion and I actually did really well at it, so that you can remind yourself and give yourself those strokes throughout the process, because maybe you're the only one that's doing that, So yeah, I like how you're doing that. And also, I heard a little bit of you're, asking for help. You're sort of reaching out, like scanning your resources to see who can I ask for help on this, who can I delegate some of this work to. That's a really important part of this process too. So you're not sitting in like the swamp of your own, like, oh my God, how am I gonna do this? Like this is too much, Like how often do we do that? And it's really easy to sit in that pot because it's just, sometimes it feels easier to like be in that place of self-pity and just continue to like sit there. The problem is we're like, again, as adults, one of the sad part of adulting is we have to be responsible for ourselves. So like the only person that's going to really get us out of that pot is us. So we can either sit there and like be drowning in like all of that self-pity and those feelings, or we can just kind of pull our pants up and get off the pot and figure out some solutions. But that doesn't diminish the fact that we have feelings about it too. Like it doesn't diminish the fact that you might feel a little bit stressed about it or that it's overwhelming. And I think overwhelm and even stress, I mean, like there's even good stress, right? Eustress and distress. There's a difference between those two things. And the eustress, the good stress, is what helps drive us forward in life. It helps keep us motivated. It helps push us towards goals. But sometimes when those things come in, they're not necessarily that they don't feel great. It's not like a state of like bliss, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're being negative about ourselves either. You know what I mean? We can have that and still be able to say like, even though this is really overwhelming, I've done this before. I know how to take care of myself. Even though this is really difficult, this season will be short and I can see the end of the tunnel. Whatever those little mantras are for you that you can add in as you're working through your day. When it starts to swirl, right, then you certainly insert really quickly, like, oh, wait a second. I feel like I'm starting to get into that spiral. Let's not do that because I know how to do hard things, or whatever your particular go-to phrases are. But I really like how you're already thinking about it. You're already starting to say like, this is going to be hard. And sometimes it's really important to like let our people know that too. Like I can't remember if you said you were married or if you have a partner or just your people.
Oh yeah, they all know about it already.
Yeah, like
I've already heard.
Sometimes it's helpful to let them know and say like, I'm going to be going through this difficult time, and so that might look like I have to work late, or maybe you could help pick up the slack with the kids or whatever for a while. Like we have to communicate that stuff, because then if we don't do that part well, it's easy to build the resentments up when people don't meet our perceived needs, because we never really even communicated them. So, all right, so keep working through that, making sure you're looking for opportunities for delegation and self-care. For lack of a better term, I don't love that term, but that's all we have, right? So making sure you're taking the time even throughout your day to stand up, get away from your desk, walk around, take those deep breaths, drink a lot of water. Make sure you're just doing the little things that really add up to fill our bucket all day long.
Right.
As you're getting depleted from the stress.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing, Lori. All right, day 4, we're inventorying our thoughts, checking them out if they're rational, irrational. Hey, Monique.
Hi there. Hi. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I liked what Polly was saying about, because I'm a manager for a chiropractic office, and I've really had to learn a lot these days about telling people issues at the office, like especially these days in terms of COVID, telling people in advance what we expect of them and what they can expect when they come into our office. Because there is a lot of negativity that's swirling around the whole PPE thing. So I'm with Polly on saying that I like to tell people in advance, and that really helps me out. And I put the onus on them too about, talking to them about putting their medical grade masks on. After the face touching, you have to hand sanitize again, and there's a lot of pushback with that, but I put that onus on them. So that does really work. And thanks for those reaffirming tips on that. I have kind of a heavy topic today with, not that other people don't, but the negative thought that was coming to me was thoughts about my dad and actually managed to put it post it into the Facebook group. But yeah, there's lots of issues about that. There's lots of negative stuff, you know, not being treated appropriately, you know, as a child, and he was always, you know, the big guy on campus, you know, heavyweight boxer, and scared the crap out of my boyfriends, and just a real tough guy. And yeah, it was scary. It was pretty scary sometimes, but so that was one of the negative thoughts that I had this morning. And is it rational? Do I have evidence? And well, I was often afraid on eggshells, grew up too fast in order to hold space in my family, and felt like I wasn't heard. He was super old school, pulled out of a school for boys when he was living in Austria. The Germans wanted the big guys to come and fight for them. He was like 14. So he, you know, he didn't have an easy go of it. He had to grow up really quickly himself as well. And so what can I do to accept this person, place, or thing? Well, he didn't know any better, as he was treated that way as a child and young adult. And I think back then, we learned so much. We have learned so much with the Me Too movement. You know, someone asked me, you know, a few years ago, well, what's that going to help, the Me Too movement? And I thought, well, at least we're starting to talk about it, and look where we are now with it, right? And so, you know, some men's outlook towards women in the 50s was a much different landscape than it is now. And, you know, as a big man on campus, he was never held accountable for his actions, because, you know, he had a big presence about him. I also put in, I can try to forgive him as much as he did not know any better, and use this as a teaching tool for I want to navigate life towards myself and others, particularly corporal punishment towards my son that I knew that I would never do. And I've been able to hold on to that very scary situation. Is this thought irrational, or is this thought untrue? Some of the young memories are more of an organic feeling than an actual memory. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard of any work by Nikki, what's her last name? Anyway, she's coined the phrase "issues in your tissues." So are these thoughts emphatically true or in my tissues? I'm not completely sure. I'll have to remember her last name. So what can I do right now to change the situation or experience? Breathe, breathe, breathe. Love those around me and love those not around me, sending love and kindness over the universal subconsciousness, I hope. And believe that he did the best with the tools that he had. But more than that, you know, I think I have to keep it simple. I'm not sure if I have to go much deeper than that. And what are your thoughts on that?
So thank you so much for sharing. I know it's deeply personal when we start talking about our family of origin kind of issues and where we came from. And you're identifying some trauma experiences related to your experience with your dad, and memories. And I think that I don't know the woman you're referring to, but issues in our tissues sounds a lot of like body keeps the score. You know, I do EMDR work, and so that's a lot of the neurological work that I do in trauma treatment. And I mean, I can't speak to your specific clinical needs as far as whether you really want to spend time with somebody to really dive into that work or not. But what I can say from a, you know, sort of a 30,000 foot view looking down, and what we can do here in just a few minutes is just to really continue to process through as you are, because I like what I hear from you is a lot of recognition and acknowledgement of what happened, and like at least your perception of it, but then also a little bit of the beginning stages, at least, of a forgiveness or a letting go of it as well. And so I think that's a great place to be. You know, that doesn't mean and forgiveness is really, I think forgiveness and acceptance to me kind of go hand in hand, and they're for us. Forgiveness is for us because it's really just releasing ourselves as the prisoner, to them, or releasing them back out into the universe, and so that we can be free. It doesn't excuse any of the behavior. It doesn't mean you're saying like, oh, it was okay for that to happen, or oh, I'm not sad about it, or it's fine. It just means I'm no longer going to be held captive to this, and so I can let it go and forgive that person. And also, I don't know if he's living or not or whatever, but forgiveness for whatever in general doesn't mean that we even maintain a relationship with that person, or that place or that thing. It doesn't mean that either. We can do that on a very personal level internally, and then still hold a boundary if it's necessary. So just in a general way, I'm just sharing that. So it sounds like to me you're already on the road to doing that work, and I love that. But we just want to make sure that you don't, and it sounds to me too like you transitioned it into your parenting with your son. So you took some things that were from your own experience and said, I don't want to do that in my life. And so you made a change. So you broke the cycle, which is a really big part of healing. A lot of times when we have children, like we take some parts from our parents that are good, and we try to keep those and hold them dear, some parts that we like, and then we kind of take the rest and say, you know what, I don't like this part, and I don't want to bring this into my family, and so I'm going to not do that. Some people don't do that, right? And they bring it all in, and then the cycle just continues, and that's why we have systemic, abuse and dysfunctional families. The other part too, I think, is in just a clinical sense of working with things, the thoughts around your dad, is to really just continue to remember that when we do this work around our families of origin, particularly people who are close to us, like parents or other people, it doesn't mean that that they're bad people. Like if we're having negative feelings or there was experiences that were really not great for us, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. Sometimes people it's really tough to do the healing work because they start to think like, oh, I don't want you to say like my mom was a bad mom or she's a bad person. Like it's not really about that. It's really about, sometimes people just aren't really that great at certain things. Like sometimes people can be really good people, but they're not really good parents. They just didn't have the skills or the tools to be good parents. But that doesn't mean that they're evil, or whatever. That just means it wasn't a great at being a dad. There were certain parts of him that just weren't that great, and kind of getting some peace around that, and taking that good and keeping it with you and moving that forward in your life. So I think there's a lot there for you to continue to explore, and any of the negative thinking patterns that you've adopted because of that. If there's like, I'm not good enough, or, there's something wrong with me, or if there's any of that that's still there, those are the kinds of things that you're going to want to check in with. Where is this showing up in my life today? Kind of like your yoga practice, is there anything that's holding you back? And maybe when you deep down ask the questions and go further and further, is it coming from, oh, I'm still stuck on some of this trauma from my family of origin, or maybe not. But just checking in with those negative thoughts as they come up for you, like what's holding me back from doing this thing, or what's preventing me from having the confidence that I need to show up in this relationship as a very strong and sort of assertive woman, and then checking in to see if it comes back to some of that family of origin stuff or anywhere. And then you'll know like, oh, okay, yeah, I do need to dig deeper into this in a real therapeutic way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, thank you for sharing that. I know that's really personal.
Well, people don't go to school to be a parent, right? Like you should really have to go to school and if you want to be a parent.
Sadly, that's not a requirement.
I know. And I just, the last name did jump into my brain. So it's Nikki Myers, who does the work with yoga and issues in your tissues. And that's NIKKIMYERS. Awesome. And she's been in and out of recovery, and she has a lot to say. She's
all right.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know there's always so much stuff that we need to dive into when we're doing, this quote unquote work of beyond recovery stuff. And I think sometimes we can live in a state and take a long time to want to do it, and that's okay too. it's never too late to take a look at some of the stuff and to improve and to heal. It's never too late. And sometimes we just get there when we get there, you know? Anybody else have anything to share about day 4? Taking that thought inventory, looking at your rational versus irrational thinking patterns.
Hi, this is Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. So mine is my stuff this week has just been active stuff that's going on in my life because there's so much. So you guys know we had trial on Tuesday, and you know there were so many things that happened that day that people were surprised that I was able to spin it in a positive light. And I'm super proud. A friend of mine commented on it this morning. She said, "I'm sorry I never responded to this, but I'm really proud of you for finding the positive in this." You know, so what I'm dealing with this morning with the negative thoughts I'm having is I came back from only being gone for one day to 63 emails in my inbox and 14 voicemails, and I haven't been able to get my inbox down below 45, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and my phone just keeps ringing and ringing and ringing, and I'm like, can I handle this? Yes, of course you can, Rebecca. That's a completely irrational thought. Of course you can handle it. You would not be getting promoted and being given a raise if you couldn't handle it. You have proven over and over again that you can. You know, so I keep having to do this to myself when I get behind like this over missing. I start doubting my abilities when I know that I'm completely capable, but those negative thought patterns just creep in and try to take over before you realize what's happening. Your doubt, you know, yeah, it's so frustrating. So yeah, they're not rational. They're completely irrational. What can I do to accept this situation? Work through it one email at a time, one voicemail at a time, one call at a time, one patient at a time, one text message at a time, because they text message me too. What can I do right now? Take a deep breath, go get some more coffee. I already had breakfast. Maybe make a protein shake. Take a break. Walk away from my computer, walk away from my phone, and take a 10-minute break, because sometimes you have to. Sometimes you just have to. So that is my current thoughts right now. During this call, my phone rang with a patient call and wanted to do a reorder, and I was like, oh, I don't want to deal with that right now, but I have to because I'm on the clock. So yeah. I had to put you guys on mute and go take care of her.
Like, no.
You're getting in the way of my, but the reality is I have a call at 6, a call at 7, and then this call at 9. It's 3 hours of my day that I'm all on the clock, but I'm doing recovery type stuff. It's like, and sometimes I can participate and sometimes I have to just listen, you know, so I'm thankful that in this moment I was able to actually unmute in time to still be able to participate in this call. And yeah, so thank you for listening to me rant.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rebecca, for sharing. I appreciate you being here and taking the time in your day and respecting yourself enough to know that, you know, it's helpful to participate things, but also to know that sometimes we have to hold a boundary and we have to do other things. One of the things that I think has been really great about this season that we're currently all in, you know, whether COVID or whatever, you know, the past year and a half or whatever year, is, at least I think for me and for some of us, it's the opportunity to really start to, if you haven't been, I use the word start, to take a look at like how to prioritize things sometimes a little bit more, and also to recognize that some things are just not for right now. You know, I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I was inspired a little bit by a podcast episode I was listening to yesterday with Amy Porterfield. She started a new podcast called Talking Body that's quite excellent if anybody's interested. And she was interviewing this woman, and she was talking about that. Like, you know, I think the woman was talking about her weight or whatever. She was just talking about something related to body. And she just said, you know, in this season right now, she just knows that that's not a priority for her right now. It is on her mind, but it's just not something that she's going to do right this minute. And maybe it's next month, maybe it's next week. And I have really like latched onto that, because that is so true. And like right now for you, Rebecca, you're in a season, you know, you're in a season that's requiring quite a bit of your emotional energy and, you know, some of your time too, quite a bit. And that's on top of a time in the world where we're already really experiencing a lot of heaviness. All of us. I don't care who you are. You know, if you're living right now, you have some of the weight of the world that's happening right now. So right now you're just in this season. And so sometimes you have to be able to just say, you know, I am focused on doing the next right thing every single day. All you're really going to do is make a plan for that day, or maybe even on Sunday, you look at your whole week, but that's as far out as you can really go. You know, like you can't dabble in like 6 months from now. You can't dabble in a year from now too much. You know, you really need to be staying in the, what do I need to do right now? You know, and then do that. And then again, and then after that, what do I need to do now? And so I like how you're being able to slow yourself down in your day. And when those thoughts do come in, you're starting to really challenge them and say that that's not a rational thought, and then squash it, you know, literally squash it, because I think you know enough now. And when we get sober, if we've done anything really, generally we know enough to begin to know like what is serving you and what isn't, you know, and this changes as we get older. It changes as our lifestyle changes. And for right now, you know enough to know what's serving you and what isn't.
Right.
And being
What relationships are serving me and which ones aren't.
Absolutely.
That's even, you know, that's a big one.
All of it. And I like the tools that you laid out too. Like clearly, you know, all of the things that you mentioned are critical. Those are all essential tools. And even for Laurie kind of mentioned it, or we were talking a little bit about that too, about, you know, taking, making sure she's looking for opportunities to delegate where it's possible, taking a break. I mean, people like people who are experts in, you know, in daily habits, like Brendon Burchard or Russell Brunson, people who do this work for a living, who've built empires around human behavior and things, talk about doing things only in 50-minute chunks of time, 50 minutes. So setting a timer for 50 minutes, because that's all our brains can really handle, no matter who you are. And people do that, and they work for 50 minutes at a time. Then they get up, they walk around, they go to the bathroom, they get a snack. I would always recommend you step outside, get a little bit of sunshine on your skin, breathe some fresh air, even if it's just for 1 minute, and then go back into what you're doing, because it gives you that reset. I think that you're doing a great job with that. You just have to maintain it. If you have to write them down, if you have to set alarms on your phone too that say get up, you know, or set an alarm that says take a nap, you know, or have a snack or whatever, because sometimes in some seasons, like the one you're in right now, where you're really all consumed by your life, there is not a lot of space. You're not living in a lifestyle that has a lot of margin right now. And so you got to use the tools you have and respect yourself enough to stick with them, because if you don't, that's when things can get a little haywire.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Good job. I got to turn my heater on. It's cold in my office, but then I have this little tiny space here, and it's amazing, but it like gets me all sweaty.
I turned mine off during this call because I was like, okay, it's warm enough in here.
Yeah. It was like, it's just been on a little too long. So anybody else have anything to share around day 4 stuff? Taking that inventory. I see we have Marla, Nicole, and I think everyone else already shared. So anybody else want to share? Talk about what's going on. My dog is currently crying at me at the top of the steps, so I'm like, you're fine.
Mom, take me out, or pay attention to me, Mom.
I'm like, you really are fine. There's really nothing wrong with you. Hi, Nicole, what's up?
Hey, I'll share. Sorry, I always have my video off at first. I am listening. I eat quick and then I can, yeah. So yeah, the negative thoughts, my biggest one, or I guess I wrote down, is that I'm not good enough and not smart enough. And I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and a lot of, you know, that sums around being a stay-at-home mom right now and all that. And then, is it rational? No, it's not, because I am smart and I am good enough. And And so, yes, it's irrational. And what I can do is realize that being a stay-at-home mom and teaching my children is a job, like you said yesterday, Shelby, like that really like struck a chord in me. Like, yes, it is. And people have said it before, but first, like the way you said it or just talking through all this, like really helped me be like, yes, it is a job. And especially the fact that I am teaching my children like curriculum right now, you know, and I can see them learning. It's working. What I'm doing is working. And even though I often feel like, oh, I'm not using my degrees in education and psychology, right? Well, kind of am. I mean, I'm with kids all day. I'm teaching them. I'm not like, a lot of what I did in my old job was to assess students for special education services. So sure, I'm not doing that, but when I noticed that my kids have things like one of them is, seems to be really hyperactive. I mean, he's a 4-year-old boy, like he's going to be, right? But I can use the strategies that I learned in my job to help him, you know, and just different things like that. So then, like, as I was writing this, I'm like, well, maybe this is what I was supposed to do, you know, like maybe I was supposed to get all this training in school psychology and do it for a while and then get burnt out and then realize, you know, stay home and then use what I learned to teach my children. And then with, you know, COVID coming into all this, like, I don't know if I'll feel comfortable sending my 4-year-old to preschool, or I'm sorry, kindergarten in the fall when he's 5. And so maybe that's just part of it, is that I'm supposed to be, you know, I'm getting used to teaching them now. And then in the fall, when it really matters, I've already laid the foundation of, okay, this is our routine, this is what we do. And now I just find a, you know, a more robust curriculum than what we have right now. So yeah, and I'll just kind of feel a little better. So thank you. That helps.
Well, I'm so thankful. I can see that you look very, a little bit lighter. You know, you look a little bit more joyful, and I'd love to see that. And sometimes we need to hear messages sort of several times. What do they say? Like 7 to 10 times we need to hear something before it becomes like something we actually either even listen to or hear or believe. And sometimes the person really matters too, like just seeing something from a different perspective or from a different view really helps a lot too. So I'm glad that resonated with you. And it is important for you to continue to tell yourself that, because there will be tough days. There are going to be hard times when, you know, the kids are misbehaving or you don't feel like you got anything accomplished, because maybe there's going to be some days when you don't. But on those days, you're going to have to be able to just be like, okay, today we're going to the park, you know, forget it. We're not doing school, or we're just accepting where we are. Everybody's taking a nap, you know, or I'm going to go meet a friend, whatever your thing is. But there's going to be those days, and you need to be able to soothe yourself, just like your children did when they were babies, right? We need to be able to pacify ourselves with the tools that we know how to use on a very regular basis, so that we can stay, you know, grounded in our world, in our bodies, and not go off the rails with the negative thinking. And the only way to do that is to have experiences where we're challenged, and then we get to use them, and then we can recall them when the next challenge comes up. So we can say like, oh yeah, I remember this is one of those days. Like for me, my go-to resource when I'm like really out of control, like just high stress level or whatever, I have to just like take a nap. For me, that's just the only what I can tell. I'm like, I'm trying to work. I'm forcing myself to do files or paperwork or whatever, and it's just not working. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I just have to close my eyes for like 15 minutes and just honor and respect myself that I just need to close my eyes and be in the dark for 15 minutes. And for me, that is the reset that works most of the time. And I'm able to just get up then and be like, okay, I can breathe, you know, I can walk around, and it really helps. But if I don't do it, and if I don't do the things that I know are going to be helpful for me in that moment, I can really tell, you know, I can tell. And then I'm just fighting myself, and I'm like, this is stupid. Why am I fighting myself? So I like that you're really seeing your value. You're seeing your value. And in your degree, you have no idea where your life is going to go. I had no idea where my life was going to go. I was working in Department of Social Services for 10 years when I got pregnant with my third child, right? And I had to leave because I couldn't afford it. And I had a license, but I was smart enough at the time, thank God, to know I had to finish my licensure, get the qualifications that I needed. I did not want to necessarily be a therapist at that time. I just didn't see that as a path. I didn't even think I was qualified. But thankfully I finished the degree and the licensure that I needed in order to be credentialed in an insurance company so I could build a career later. I had no idea that that was going to happen. So you just don't know where you're going to go, but you've got that in the back burner. It's never going to be taken away from you. Your credentials can never be taken from you. You know, we can always brush up on skills and get training and all that stuff. The credentials you have are yours. And that's just valuable, you know, because what if you do decide when they all get to school, you're like, you know what, I want to go back part-time, or I want to build my own business, or I want to help other kids. You just don't know where your skill set's going to come in to play. So, but right now, and at least for the foreseeable future, yeah, your job is to be the best mom that you can be in your family. Your job is to really run your household. Like my husband always says, I'm the CEO of my house, you know, like we're in charge. I don't know about your family, but like when stuff goes on, you're in charge. You know, every home renovation we've done here, who's talking to that contractor every day? Me. Who's managing all of the supplies? Me. Who's talking to, managing the problems? Me. You know, who's meeting the freaking washer guy to fix the thing? Like we're running our household, which is a full-time job. So really respecting that and finding, I think more importantly than any of it too, is finding your tribe. I don't know if you read Jen Hatmaker. She's pretty awesome. She wrote the Of Mess and Moxie book. It's really good. She's a Christian woman, and she's not really judgy or anything, but like if that's not your thing, then you just have to kind of like take that part out. But she's really dynamic. She has 5 kids, and she's funny. So like her writing is like it's very real. Like she talks real about like eating chips and salsa for dinner and like watching Netflix all day kind of thing. So like I love her because it's just very funny and humorous. But she talks a lot about finding those people or that tribe in your life of women who are going to get you, because if we don't have at least one person or at least somebody or people who really understand us and the way that we're running our life, the way that you're running your momhood life right now, it's easy to spiral into that negative thinking pattern around like, am I doing this, right? Or, it's just to not feel validated in your motherhood. So I think that's really important because I think we talked about this, we mentioned before, just like sometimes women are just not that great, and they can be mean and judgy and, not everybody, but like, if you don't find the ones that are like your people where you can just like, oh, today school sucked. Like I freaking threw the plates on the floor because I was so annoyed with them and like, whatever, like the real deal.
Yep.
Have somebody say like, yeah, I get it.
I still need to find that.
Yeah. I'm still working on it too. Like, it's not something that comes natural unless you fell into that at a young age, or as a younger people. But don't give up, And I think maybe your calling is going to be homeschooling. Like maybe you are going to be a homeschooling mom. It's not what you thought.
No.
It's not what you thought, but maybe. And nothing is forever. That's the other thing too. So even when you are like, if it's very daunting to think like, oh my God, I don't want to homeschool my kid, you can just say like, we're going to take it 1 year at a time or half a year at a time. If it's awful, then you're like, forget it. You're going to school, or you find that you love it. And then all of a sudden you and your husband are buying an RV and traveling the country. I don't know.
True.
I worked with a woman who was helping me on some marketing stuff with my email platform, and she has 5 children. They live in an RV. They're 17 down.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? Well, they go to visit family and they stay with other people, but they've been homeschooling their whole life and they just travel around. And her kids are like big into mountain biking and they join mountain bike teams wherever they're located. They've traveled. I'm like, oh my gosh. But you know what? That's their thing. So
yeah.
All right. So good for you though. I love that you're starting to feel that shift and owning that. And then once you do, like you kind of stand a little taller, your shoulders are back and you're like, dang, this is my job. Yeah, you're right. This is my job. And we have to just remind ourselves that it doesn't matter what society is telling us. It doesn't matter, the mommy wars are never going to end. I don't care how developed we get. I'm older than you. I've come through a couple generations. They're the same. We still have the mommies against, stay-at-home moms. We have mommies against working moms. Like there's always going to be this crap going on. But it doesn't matter what society is saying. It only really matters what is best for you and your family and what's working and what isn't working. And as long as you're willing to continue to evaluate that and check in with yourself regularly, then that's all that matters. That make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Totally. All right, ladies. I know Marla's here too. If you have anything to share, feel free. There's a few people watching us live right now. Hey, Anna and Elaine and Ellen. All those people who are watching us live on Facebook. I'm glad you're here. If you have any questions at all, leave them below in the comments. If you're watching this after we're live, leave your comments or questions below and we'll make sure we answer them. You ladies can answer stuff too if you see any comments coming in through the group. And if nobody has anything else we need to circle back to, we're going to sign off and just get ourselves ready for day 5, last day. Yay! Gonna make it through this whole challenge.
Thank you, ladies, for being here.
Thanks, Rebecca, for sharing and for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
girls.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.